this morning. We have Jeannette and Peggy, who are our bingo beauties. They are also our property managers for CompU. They're both long-term gathering place volunteers, and they each bring a wealth of information and knowledge about our programs. Good morning, Janet and Peggy.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I understand that you worked at Monsanto before your kids were born. What were your responsibilities in the workforce?
I had several jobs. I started there when I was 19.
Oh,
Yeah, well, 20. I guess I was more like 20. But right out of business college, and was a transportation clerk, which is funny because I had to schedule the company vehicles for maintenance, things like that, and I had no clue what I was doing. It was talk about starting from the ground up. I literally did.
Job then. Very good.
But I ended up. I had about four positions, but the last one was executive secretary to the HR superintendent when I left. But I worked for 10 years. That's where I met my husband.
Very good. So something very good came out of it.
It
Was that
certainly
back in the day when you could get a retirement if you put 10 years in with the company?
You get a pension. Uh-huh.
Yes, I was very surprised that I ended up in that situation too. So pleasant surprise now. Now,
Yes.
Janet, I understand you worked in retail for 30 years. What did you do?
Yes, I worked for an old-fashioned five and dime store in Houston, in Rice Village. And it was a family-owned store called Variety Fair. If y'all ever went to Rice Village, you probably saw it. And I did a little bit of everything. I was a cashier, floor sweeper,
Shelf stocker,
hold the baby while the customer's writing a check, whatever.
I remember when Checkers used to do that, when they used to hold your baby or your card or something. I don't think they can do that anymore. But
Oh yeah. We were full service.
now, Peggy, you also held many part-time jobs, I understand, after your kids were born, I guess. Can you tell us about them?
Well, I volunteered at the schools when my children were in school, and then after they all graduated, I worked in the bookstore at the high school, and I enjoyed that. I did data entry, for the textbooks that weren't used, unfortunately. But that, and I worked for a group photography. It was a family-owned photography business, and just various different things. But I enjoyed all of it. I really
Very
did.
good. Now, you said that you, I guess, started out as a volunteer for the schools, and then you worked in the bookstore at the high school. I didn't know high schools have bookstores.
Textbook, where the textbooks were held.
Oh, the curriculum area. Okay.
That was my comment, that the textbooks would go out. You check them out, and the children would bring them back at the end of the year, and then you would have to put in the computer that they were returned.
All right.
That sort of thing. Not a difficult job.
But somebody had to do it, right?
So I guess so. That's right.
And that was for high school level?
That was at Alvin High School.
Did you also volunteer at the elementary level when your kids were little?
Whatever school my children were in, I volunteered.
So it was PTO or PTA or whatever they call it nowadays.
Booster Club, right. Booster Club, yeah. In fact, there's a group of we ladies, there's about 10 of us, that we called ourselves the Breakfast Mamas. We still get together. We would take our children to school, and then we'd go meet somewhere and have breakfast. And then we go back to the school here. And we're the Breakfast Mamas.
I wonder if the schools are allowing any volunteers in nowadays.
They're not.
No, probably not.
They're not, because for about 7-8 years, I've been a care reader at Passport, where my granddaughter goes. And
What is it called, Janet? A carry?
care reader.
Oh, care reader.
Care
Okay.
reader.
And what is,
At one point, I was reading to 3 different classrooms, like for 20 minutes at a time. But the kids were wonderful, and I loved it so much. The kids had fun. I had fun. Teachers had fun, but because of COVID, no volunteers are allowed.
oh, that's tough.
Mhm.
Now, Peggy, I understand that you are the gathering place coordinator for First Christian,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
addition to being the, what is it called? The, I
Alvin
want to
Advisory
say
Council,
president of advisory council or whatever.
co-chair with
Okay.
Kathy Ford from Alvin Lutheran.
Okay, so what do you do as being gathering place coordinator for your church?
Well, try to find volunteers mainly to help, that, and then we just coordinate when it's our Wednesday, that we're the third Wednesday of every month. We gather the volunteers, and each one has a responsibility. It's wonderful. And when we don't have them in our own church, we have volunteers at large, like Janet comes from Alvin Presbyterian, First Presbyterian, and St. John's and Alvin Lutheran, and it's a joint effort. Believe me, it's a
Yes,
family
it is
effort.
very ecumenical, and the whole town seems to be helping out
You
there.
know,
Very good. How long have you been with Gathering Place, Peggy?
6 years.
Did you start the Gathering Place socials at First Christian?
Yes, at
You
First
did-
Christian. In
do you
fact, I have to be honest. Our pastor then was Charles Smith, and he came to me and he said, "They're starting this gathering place, and I want you to head it up. I want you to start it and get others involved." And at the time, I was doing Meals on Wheels and a lot of other things. And my husband, he just, not one more thing. And I told Pastor Charles, I said, if I take on one more thing, I'm going to have a divorce on my hands. And he said, "Well, I don't want to be responsible for divorce." So anyway, we finally met a happy medium, and Craig King at First Presbyterian was actually the one who started it in Alvin. Yeah.
Now, Janet, you are the coordinator for First Presbyterian Alvin, correct?
Yes.
Did you start with Pastor King?
Mhm. Yes, I was on the maiden voyage, I guess you call it. Yes.
So did you do the very first gathering for the northern part of the county, or for the whole county?
Our very first gathering was in February of whatever year it was, and ours was the very first one. So
The first one for the whole county then?
for Alvin,
North, yeah.
Okay, okay, very good, very good. And you continue to be the gathering place coordinator for First Presbyterian to this day?
Yes, but again, I had to get a lot of help from Peggy and Barbara Bennett.
Yes.
Barbara Bennett was wonderful when I had to take time off to help take care of my husband after his accident. Barbara just stepped in and just did a wonderful job.
She did a great job.
Now, Janet, you said that you had taken time off to help your husband after his accident. Are you referring to the latter accident?
Yes.
Okay. How's he doing now?
Oh, he's doing wonderful. He's back to doing push-ups and working on his weight machine, and
That's wonderful.
he knows
That's
to
good.
kind of back off, but
Good.
Tell us about your kids. I believe you have sons, Andy and Michael.
Andy and his wife, Michelle, she's sort of like a counselor at Alvin High School. And Andy teaches American history at Alvin High School. He also does joint, what it's called, dual credit classes through ACC. And they have 2 kiddos.
Two grandchildren then?
Yeah, Kylie's 10 and Ethan is 5. And then we have a younger son, Michael. And Peggy doesn't know this yet, but as of this past Friday, we now have someone who is enlisted in the Navy.
Oh, congratulations.
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 Do you know where he's going to go in for his boot camp or anything?
Boot camp will be up Great Lakes, somewhere up there where it's cold.
I know all about that. Now, Peggy, it's your turn. You have 3 adult children, I understand. I heard something. Oh, 2 adult children, and I heard something about is it a grandson that you've got?
One grandson. Our oldest son Nathan lives in Alvin and works for ConocoPhillips. He's not married. Our daughter lives here at home with us, Jennifer, and then I have a younger son who is married, the only one married, and he and his wife Selena live in Clear Lake. And they have given us a grandson who will be 2 in March.
Oh, just a baby.
Oh.
Did you have to isolate from your grandson in the earlier COVID days, or do you get to see him in person? Or
oh yeah, now we do. Yeah, we do.
So, do you have to wear masks? Are you allowed to pick him up, or
They let us.
they let us? Okay, so it's really
anyway. It's not hard. I'd rather be around him, not to be able to pick him up. You just can't do that. A grandma can't do that.
Right?
And he's 2 years old now, then?
He'll be 2 in March.
Wow. So I guess he's walking and talking and singing little songs then.
He jibber jabbers all the time.
Oh, and what's his name?
James.
James. Very nice. Very nice. Now, both of you ladies are involved with other ministries also. What are they? Let's start with you, Janet.
I don't like being in leadership roles, but somehow Craig King made sure that I was.
Right.
I'm the head of Mission and Outreach at First Presbyterian.
And what is Mission and Outreach's?
It's like I should have written all this down.
Women's
But
ministry.
gathering places like it's one of our missions. The clothing outlet, and through the clothing outlet, the proceeds that we receive from the clothing outlet, which is located on the church property, the money goes to buy school supplies for kids at the beginning of the school year. And then we have some international endeavors that we're involved in also.
So is the clothing outlet a thrift shop that's open to the public, or do you ship clothing to other places?
Well, all of the clothing that we receive is donations that have come in. You know, that folks have donated.
And what about the ones who work? Are they employees of the church, or are they volunteers? Or
They're all volunteers.
how long has that been a ministry of the church?
Oh my goodness. A long time. It was started by one of our church members named Grace Harvey. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with her. She would, how it started, she would put clothing in her trunk. She was a teacher at Harvey. No, not teacher at Harvey. She was a teacher though. And when she heard of children who needed clothing, she would go to the school and take the children clothes. So that's how the clothing outlet got started. I mean, now it's, you know, a very nice facility located, you know, on our church property. But that's how it got started.
Does the clothing outlet provide other things other than clothing?
No, pretty much just clothing.
Just clothing. Okay. It's so unusual to have one of these homegrown ministries be able to last and be staffed by volunteers for, I understand it's decades now. So kudos to your church. Very good. Now, Peggy, you're involved in other ministries also, in addition to your various gathering place acts. What are your other ministries you're involved in?
Well, for many years until this year when COVID hit, I was involved with Meals on Wheels. Now it's just a a handful of people that are delivering meals on Monday. But we used to deliver. Jerry and I used to deliver all the time. But and I enjoyed that. I miss it a great deal. But I guess in the church, as of Sunday, I became board secretary.
Oh, secretary. Okay.
Yeah, and I used to teach Sunday school to the little ones, and I miss that. Um, let's see, and I'm a financial secretary. But anyway, they're just a number of little jobs that I like to do behind the scenes. I'm like Janet. I don't like to be on the forefront. I like to be behind the scenes girl.
And yet here you're the coordinator for Alvin's
Oh, yeah.
gathering place, and you're the chairman or co-chair of the advisory board for, I guess it's for all of the North County now.
I don't know how that
You wear
happened.
many, many hats. Now you said that Meals on Wheels had some kind of a cutback in number of drivers because of COVID.
No, we were delivering. Different churches in Alvin had volunteers that we delivered certain days of the week. There were like
Yes, in your day.
Monday through Friday. And when COVID hit, they wanted less contact, a number of people contact. So they the board decided to deliver meals just on Monday, 5 meals to the people who need them on Monday, rather than deliver 5 days a week individually.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
less contact.
So is it frozen food now instead of the hot meals?
Yes, it is. Yeah. They get 5 frozen meals on Monday. And that way there's less people contact, less chance of spreading the virus,
Very
sort
good.
of thing.
Now let's talk a little bit about your hobbies, ladies. Janet, I understand you are a quilter. Can you
I'm
tell
a novice quilt.
Yes.
And all of the quilts that I have helped make, we have given away through church mission projects. We made a bunch of lap quilts a couple of years ago that we took up to the George Veterans Center up in Houston, and we made like 30 of them. And then we also made quilts for loved ones who had passed away in our church to give to their family members. So we've given away all the ones that we made. But I remembered I made a couple things during COVID. When it first got started, I was so bored I had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I made, you see it? Did you see that?
It's cute.
Oh, that is cute.
I understand them a lot better than that watching them.
I made a bunch of them because I was just so bored. I thought,
Yeah.
well, it's March, but it could be Christmas anytime.
So is that like to hang on a door or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, and I made pot holders too.
When she talks, it seems better, but when these two do,
That's a card
yeah,
holder.
that's a
Very
good
good.
sign.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been quilting? Has this been a lifelong thing?
Oh no. When we made the quilts for the George Center, and that's another mission I'm involved with at church. We call ourselves the fairy godmothers.
Fairy godmothers.
Fairy godmothers, because one of our quilters was part of a fairy godmother's group up in North Carolina when she used to live there. And when she left, she was given this extremely old quilt. The lady that gave it to her was in her 80s. And this quilt top was made by this lady's grandmother. So the quilt top was over 100 years old. So we cut it down into smaller pieces. So that's how I learned to quilt. I can stitch the ditch, can't do anything else.
You said you were donating quilts to the George Center. What is that?
But the George Center in Houston, it's a residence for homeless veterans.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Very good.
And being that this quilt top was made by obviously someone in the military who thought, well, that would be a fitting thing to do. So,
Very good. Very good.
Now, Peggy, I understand that you have a special affinity for crafts. Can you tell us about that?
I just like to play with scissors and paper. Give me scissors and paper and glue, and I'm a happy man. Or happy
I've seen some of the things that you've made for a gathering, and they're very elaborate and artistic. Do you have a special craft center set up in your home, or a room just for your materials? You must have a garage full from what I've seen.
Janet is sworn to secrecy. That room is a disaster. There are boxes and file cabinets, and it's a disaster. But it's my craft room. My daughter and I share it.
Yeah, all kinds
and
of
she knows where everything
books about
kind
things
But
that
sometimes I have to do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I do enjoy. And Pinterest is my friend.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can find any craft, anything you want to do on Pinterest, on the internet.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't it great, Karen? I love it.
Yes.
There, I just see pictures of things or quotes. I guess I have to set some settings or something on Pinterest. I've just never really understood the allure. I guess I just never had the time to learn how to craft. And now that I'm at this stage of my life and we have these Zoom classes with art and things where we need to cut and paint and things like that, it's like, oh, this is a learned skill. Now, I would like to ask each of you about your best advice for caregivers with loved ones facing memory challenges. Let's start with you, Janet. You've got so much experience in this area.
Well, from speaking with friends who have loved ones with dementia, I would say that what they've told me is enjoy the little things. You know,
Enjoy the little things.
little special moments. You know, may not be able to do everything that you could do before, but you know, and just enjoy special times.
Each day is a new day. Very good. Very good. Now, when you have a staff of volunteers that you lead for your church, do you ever give them extra advice along the way while they're working with the gathering place? Or do you just zip your lip and be grateful for volunteers?
I would say that all of our volunteers and even the volunteers at large that help us, we're all pretty well seasoned. You know, we know what to do and what not to do. You know, every now and then we might have to take one of us aside and say, back off or whatever.
Don't say that or something like that.
Stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally, we've most of our volunteers at First Presbyterian, we've been pretty much since the very beginning. So.
So you have a core group that's been with you all along then.
Well, a few have had to drop out for whatever reason, but I've got 3 or 4 that I can depend on for sure. And then thankfully the Peggy and all the other volunteers at large, we make it work.
I remember the first gathering place that Morris went to, and it was over at First Presbyterian. And I was scared because I had just finished a long Alzheimer's experience with my mother-in-law. And it's like, how can these people who don't know our loved one take care of them? So I went in and said, is there a doctor here? Is there a nurse here? Is there a respiratory therapist? And you think about all of these health concerns. And it turned out to not be a problem at all. It was very enlightening when I found out that the volunteers can do so much without being certified nurses or neurologists and all of those things that I, as a person just starting to get involved with the social ministry aspect, was very surprised about. Now, Peggy, what is your best advice for caregivers for people with memory challenges?
I think the most important thing is patience. To practice patience. It's not an easy thing, and when the patient when the client is frustrated and they don't understand, it's the hardest thing to just back off and give them time and try to talk them through it and love them. You just got to wrap your arms around them and love them.
I think that's the most important thing, is to let your loved one know and feel that they are loved all the time. And of course, touch is very, very important, and we can't do that now with COVID. So that's been I think, a challenge for all of us. So we just have a couple of minutes left, but you all have had such wonderful food at your gatherings. I was wondering if either or both of you have a recipe you'd like to share with the group. Something that we can just put in our heads and remember without having to write.
Quick, I'm just gonna hold up the ingredients. You take the flour tortilla.
This is show and tell.
It's a show and tell. You take the flour tortilla and you spread Nutella in the middle of it. And then you roll it up and you have a chocolate taco.
Oh, a chocolate taco. Does that sound good?
That recipe is courtesy
Like that for your
my grandkids.
Stella, very simple. Sounds great.
Only 10 ingredients.
Very good. How about you, Peggy? How about an easy recipe?
Okay, this is easy. Take just a plain cake mix, white cake mix, and you mix it with your egg and your oil and whatever, and water, like you would normally do. Put it in your pan. Then take your favorite pie filling. I like cherry. A light pie filling. You can make it sugar-free. You can buy the sugar-free cake mixes. A light pie filling, and you just put dollops of the pie filling in the cake mix. Bake it. It bakes up around it, and it makes a great dessert.
Very good. Now, do you use the big can or the little can of pie filling? Big can. And when you said dollops, you don't cover the whole top. You just plop it on.
Just plop, blobs, spoonfuls in your cake mix. Don't mix it up. Don't have to mix it up.
You have to extend your baking time when you do that? No?
Bake it like just bake it like the recipe the box calls for. And if you want to, you can drizzle a little glaze on it.
I was going to ask if this gets around having to put icing on a cake. So sounds like I'm going to have to try that. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. These, as I say, is Peggy and Janet, our bingo beauties, who we see on Mondays, and just wanted to know a little bit more about you, and thank you for your time.